Something big might be brewing in Pittsburgh. The Steelers could be making a serious move, and it might change everything for their offense. Yes, reports say the Steelers are actively exploring a trade for a wide receiver, and that has the entire NFL world watching closely. Adam Schefter, on ESPN's Pat McAfee show, revealed that with the trade deadline just 3 weeks away, several major deals could go down soon, and the Steelers are right in the middle of it. They've already been making calls, testing the market, and looking for the right player to strengthen their lineup. But before we get into the latest details and possible targets, backhand index pointing right, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you never miss any breaking Steelers updates. Alright, let's move on to the latest news. Now, here's the situation. The Steelers are facing some real depth issues at wide receiver. Kelvin Austin is dealing with a shoulder injury and missed the last game. Beyond DK Metcalf, the roster is looking thin, and that's a problem. Scotty Miller saw the second most snaps at wide receiver in the game against the Browns, but beyond him, there's Roman Wilson and Skoric, who've barely seen action. It's clear the team needs another playmaker who can step up fast. A shocking stat from last week tells the whole story. Going into that game, only one receiver on the active roster had more than one catch, DK Metcalf. That's it. With injuries and lack of production piling up, the Steelers' search for another wide receiver isn't just talk. It's a real necessity. Stay with me, because what comes next could tell us exactly who the Steelers are targeting and how close they are to pulling the trigger on a deal. Now let's talk about who the Steelers might actually go after. When you look across the league, a few names instantly stand out. And yes, some of them could completely change Pittsburgh's offense if they land here. Let's start with New Orleans. Earlier this year, there were whispers that the Steelers reached out to the Saints about wide receiver Chris Olave. At the time, New Orleans wasn't interested in letting him go. But here's where things get interesting. As the Saints' season continues to spiral, that conversation might be back on the table. If their record keeps sinking, a trade for Olave could become a real possibility. And that's not all. Just last week, reports surfaced that Rashid Shaheed, another Saints wideout, might be on the move. He's in the final year of his contract and could be dealt before the deadline. And guess what? The Steelers have reportedly checked in again, this time asking about Shaheed instead of Olave. Now, both players bring something different. Olave is polished, explosive, and clearly the more complete receiver. But Shaheed? He's that deep speed weapon, the kind of player who can stretch defenses, return kicks, and turn a small play into a highlight reel moment. He might not get many targets, but when he does, he makes them count. And then there's the big name that has fans buzzing, A.J. Brown. There's a connection here that makes this rumor hard to ignore. Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith coached A.J. Brown back in Tennessee. Plus, DK Metcalf and Brown go way back, college teammates and good friends. That chemistry could make the locker room fit almost seamless. Here's the twist. A.J. Brown reportedly isn't thrilled with how things are going in Philadelphia. The Eagles are struggling, his targets have dipped, and frustration is building. If Philly decides to shake things up, maybe trade Brown for draft picks or a key defensive piece after losing an edge rusher, Pittsburgh could be waiting right there, ready to make a move. This is where things start to get really interesting. Because if the Steelers manage to land one of these names, their entire offense could look completely different overnight. Stay with me, because the next part reveals who the most likely trade target actually is, based on what's happening behind the scenes. The idea of pairing A.J. Brown with DK Metcalf in Pittsburgh is more than just a dream. It actually makes sense. The Steelers want toughness. They want receivers who don't just catch the ball, but fight for every yard. And when it comes to physical playmakers, there aren't many names tougher than Metcalf and Brown. Two absolute powerhouses who know how to dominate a defense. Imagine those two lining up together again. Metcalf on one side, Brown on the other, and Kelvin Austin working the slot with his quick bursts of speed. That trio could completely reshape how teams defend Pittsburgh. It's not just talent, it's intimidation. But that's not the only name floating around. Another possible target? Jakobi Meyers from the Raiders. He's been frustrated since the offseason, when contract talks with Las Vegas broke down. The Raiders are struggling, their season is sinking fast, and a rebuild feels inevitable. They don't have stability at quarterback, their offense looks lost, and trading Meyers might actually help them reset for the future. For the Steelers, Meyers brings a different kind of value. He's not the flashiest name out there, but he's a reliable route runner, a veteran who knows how to get open and move the chains. If Pittsburgh is looking for a short-term, dependable option, He could be the steady hand they need, especially if bigger trades fall through. Still, the Steelers might be aiming higher. Around the league, whispers are spreading that DJ Moore could also be available. The Chicago Bears have been quietly checking the market to see what kind of return he could bring, especially with Rome Odunze emerging as a future star in their receiving core. Moore's targets have dipped, and teams are starting to notice that something could be brewing in Chicago. If Moore actually hits the trade block, you can bet the Steelers will be watching closely, because a player like that doesn't stay available for long. Stay with me, because next, we'll break down the realistic trade options the Steelers can afford and which move could make them instant contenders again. Trade season always brings surprises, and this year might be no different. One name quietly floating around the market is Calvin Ridley. After signing a big contract, his production has dipped this season, and that could open the door for a possible move. The Titans might listen to offers if they decide to shake things up. Then there are other receivers around the league, Adonai Mitchell, Tim Patrick, and a few others, talented players stuck on struggling teams that might be ready to reset. For the Steelers, those names could become interesting targets if the price is right and the timing fits. And don't forget about Devonta Smith in Philadelphia. His situation has been a bit tense lately, especially with A.J. Brown voicing frustration about his own role. Smith has stayed professional, but both players clearly want more involvement in the offense. Realistically, if the Eagles ever moved one of them, it would likely be Brown first, but Smith's name remains worth watching just in case things get messy in Philly. Now, let's talk about the name that keeps circling back in every Steelers discussion, Allen Lazard. Whether fans like it or not, his name just won't go away. Lazard's connection to Aaron Rodgers keeps him relevant in trade rumors, given how closely the two work together in both Green Bay and New York. But here's the honest truth. Not everyone in Pittsburgh would welcome that move. Many fans feel the Steelers should give their younger receivers, like Roman Wilson, a real chance to prove themselves instead of bringing in someone who hasn't shown consistent production. Still, the fact that Lazard's name continues to come up tells you something. The Steelers are exploring every possible option. They know they can't afford to stand still. Stay with me, because in the next part, we'll talk about what the Steelers front office is actually thinking right now, and which trade scenario makes the most sense for them to pull the trigger on. There's no denying it. The Allen Lazard rumor just won't go away. Every time trade talks come up, his name somehow finds its way back into the conversation, and that's mostly because of his long-standing connection with Aaron Rodgers. Their chemistry is proven, and that kind of comfort between quarterback and receiver always draws attention. But here's the question that really matters. Is Lazard truly the answer for Pittsburgh? Because when you look at it closely, bringing him in might not actually move the needle. Sure, he'd come cheap, likely costing the Steelers minimal draft capital, but is he really an upgrade over what they already have? Young talents like Roman Wilson and Kelvin Austin haven't even been given a full chance to prove what they can do yet. And if you're trying to build a fast, explosive offense, maybe trusting your young receivers is better than chasing a familiar name who hasn't made a major impact lately. Still, the front office's interest in wideouts tells you one clear thing. Pittsburgh is serious about making a move before the deadline. They've already made calls, checked availability, and explored both trade and player swap options. Whether it's a big-name addition or a depth piece, the message is clear. They want more firepower. Now, the big decision is about how they'll get it done. Will it be a player-for-player deal, like we've seen them do before, or will they be willing to give up draft capital this time? Remember, the Steelers recently gained a third-round pick in the George Pickens trade. If they decide to use that same pick to bring in a proven wide receiver, it could be the final piece that sparks this offense. But there's another layer here. With the NFL draft taking place in Pittsburgh, the team might prefer to hold on to their picks and build through that home field spotlight. That means a creative player swap could be the smarter route, allowing the Steelers to stay aggressive without giving up future assets. One thing's for sure, this front office isn't sitting still. Something is coming. So stay with me, because the next part breaks down what kind of trade strategy Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan might actually use, and what it tells us about how confident this team really is heading into the second half of the season. Now, everything comes down to one question. What will the Pittsburgh Steelers actually do? Will they use their draft picks to chase a proven wide receiver? Or will they pull off a smart player-for-player swap and keep their future assets intact? That's the mystery every Steelers fan is waiting to see unfold before the trade deadline hits. And there's no denying it. Losing George Pickens still stings. A lot of fans hated that move, and honestly, I get it. Pickens had the kind of raw talent that could have flourished alongside Aaron Rodgers. But the Steelers made their decision, gained a third-round pick, and now find themselves searching for the exact type of weapon they just gave up. If Pickens had stayed, this whole conversation might not even exist. But that's football. One decision changes everything, and now the Steelers are trying to fix the hole that move created. So as we wait for answers, one thing is crystal clear: the Steelers aren't done. They're hungry, they're active, and they know that one smart trade could completely change the direction of this season. Stay with me, because the coming days could define not just this year, but the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers offense.